Dear respected listeners, you are tuning into Buddha's Healing a Sanctuary, where we contemplate the Buddha's teachings to live peacefully amidst the flow of life, the beginning of a new day, and the invisible loop of anxiety. When the very first rays of dawn pierce through the window, awakening all of creation after a long night of deep slumber, it is inherently the most sacred, pristine, and pure moment of heaven and earth. The morning serves as a profound symbol of fresh beginnings, of spiritual rebirth, and of entirely new opportunities. However, if you allow yourself to sit in stillness and truly observe your own patterns, how many times in your life have you genuinely welcomed the morning with a completely peaceful, present, and wholehearted state of mind? The harsh reality is that the vast majority of humanity in this modern, fast-paced world begins their new day not with gentle mindfulness, but with a startled jolt of panic and inner turmoil. The very moment the eyes flutter open, even before the mind has a chance to simply recognize the in and out flow of the breath, heavy concepts of anxiety and stress come rushing in like a dark, overwhelming storm. We frantically reach out to search for our mobile phones, allowing the chaotic, unverified information of the noisy external world to immediately invade and conquer our fragile, newly awakened souls. Instantly, the mind is violently thrown into an invisible time machine, catapulted straight into the future, burdened by an endless series of pressure-filled questions. How many demanding tasks must be resolved today? How will these towering bills be paid by the end of the month? How will that difficult appointment unfold later this afternoon? And how can we possibly cope with all the challenging people who constantly bring us discomfort? We may still be physically lying on our soft beds, but our souls have already begun a grueling marathon on the dusty road of survival and endless calculation. Allowing these wandering, insecure thoughts to take the lead from the very first second of the day is exactly how we single-handedly sow the toxic seeds of stress into the fertile garden of our own consciousness. When the mind becomes completely occupied by worst-case scenarios that have not even occurred, the physical body instantly reacts to these phantom threats. The heart rate accelerates, breathing becomes shallow and erratic, and the muscle fibers begin to tense and harden. The pure, vital energy of the morning, which should have been utilized to nourish the body and mind, and to create beautiful, lasting values, is instead foolishly incinerated on the altar of illusory anxieties. And so, you step out of your home with a heavy, burdened heart, carrying a gloomy cloud that casts a dark shadow over every word you speak, every decision you make, and every action you take throughout the long day. When the mind is not at peace, everywhere you look, you only see turbulent storms. Even the most trivial, insignificant events that do not go exactly according to your wishes can easily provoke intense anger, drain your patience, and lead you to commit regrettable mistakes. This is precisely why our days so frequently pass by in sheer exhaustion, depleted vitality, and a multitude of unnecessary obstacles. The delusions in seeking peace and clinging to the future. There is a massive, tragic paradox that countless people stumble into on their arduous journey to find smoothness, success, and peace in this life. We mistakenly harbor the illusion that constantly worrying about the future is synonymous with careful, responsible preparation. Human beings often operate under the assumption that if they thoroughly analyze every possible risk, if they exhaust their mental energy, formulating intricate plans to counter every conceivable disaster, They will somehow seize absolute control over their destiny. But dear respected listeners, the boundary between mindful preparation and excessive, paralyzing anxiety is incredibly fragile. Mindful preparation simply means that you clearly recognize what needs to be done. You organize your tasks sensibly. And then, crucially, you completely relax your mind and begin taking action right here in the present moment. Excessive anxiety, on the other hand, occurs when the mind becomes stubbornly attached to the final outcome. You vividly imagine the absolute worst-case scenarios. You deliberately terrify yourself with these illusions. And then you drown in a suffocating ocean of fear, manufactured entirely by your own imagination. The undeniable truth of the universe is impermanence. Not a single soul on this earth can grasp with absolute certainty what tomorrow will bring. Ferocious storms can arise without warning, and beautiful flowers can bloom in the most unexpected hours. Attempting to forcefully control the future is as utterly futile and exhausting as trying to catch a wild, rushing wind with your bare hands. The more intensely you crave control, the more profoundly helpless and agonizingly miserable you will feel. Anxiety has never, in the entire history of the world, helped anyone solve the difficulties of tomorrow. It only succeeds in ruthlessly robbing you of your strength and your joy of living today. It operates like a silent, invisible thief, day after day quietly stealing away your inner tranquility, your physical health, and even the precious moments of true presence alongside your loved ones. When you sit down to eat breakfast with your family, yet your mind is drifting away to the report you must submit later. The reality is that you are not eating breakfast at all, nor are you truly with your family. You are chewing on your sorrows and drinking your anxieties. To lose the present moment is to lose the entirety of your actual life. Many people offer the excuse that they are simply too busy to practice mindfulness. They mistakenly believe that meditation or spiritual cultivation requires sitting perfectly still for agonizing hours in a difficult posture, hidden away in some remote, inaccessible mountain cave. This is a profound misunderstanding that tightly shuts the door to the rich inner world. True mindfulness does not demand that you abandon your ordinary daily life or search for something mystical and far away. It is simply the gentle act of bringing the wandering mind back to reunite fully with the physical body. Right in this exact space, and right within this very moment. The Buddha's teachings on the art of dwelling securely and transforming the anxious mind. Through countless lifetimes of diligent cultivation, and having realized the ultimate, unvarnished truth, the Buddha left behind deeply practical and profoundly illuminating teachings to rescue suffering beings from the dark ocean of delusional thinking. He taught his disciples that the greatest, most destructive enemy of a person's inner peace does not come from external circumstances, but from the restless mind itself, constantly running after the phantom illusions of time. The past has completely vanished and can never be retrieved. The future has not yet arrived and is full of fleeting mirages. Anyone who continuously chases after the past or aggressively dreams about the future will quickly wither and fade away. Exactly like a lush, green branch violently uprooted from the earth and thrown out to bake under the scorching, unforgiving sun. According to the flawless insight of the great teacher, the only true, vibrant, and authentic life is unfolding right here, strictly within the boundary of the present moment, the breath you are drawing in at this exact second, the beating of the heart in your chest right now, That is the only reality you can actually touch and master. He urged those who seek the path to practice lighting the brilliant torch of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the profound capacity to clearly recognize exactly what is occurring within the body, within the mind, and within the surrounding environment, absolutely without any judgment, clinging, or resistance. When your mind begins to wander, painting terrifying future scenarios and generating the cold sweat of anxiety, the Buddha's teachings gently remind us not to panic. We must not attempt to use the brute force of willpower to chase away or suppress that anxiety. Suppressing a negative emotion is exactly like placing a massive, heavy boulder over a patch of tender grass. The grass may be temporarily hidden from view, but its roots will continue to dig deeper, and the moment it finds an opening, it will grow back stronger and more toxic than before. Instead of fighting a violent war against anxiety, the Buddha taught us to use the warm, illuminating light of mindfulness to gently embrace it. Simply recognize it with a soft inner voice. Ah, my mind is currently experiencing worry. Then, offer a gentle smile of compassion to that very worry. The moment the light of pure recognition is switched on, the heavy darkness of ignorance and fear will automatically dissipate or weaken significantly. 5 miraculous minutes to establish an anchor of concentration for a long day. By deeply understanding the universal laws governing the mind as illuminated by the Buddha, we can clearly see the immeasurable, priceless value of dedicating just 5 minutes to mindfulness practice every single morning. You do not need to perform complex, time-consuming rituals. Just 5 minutes of profound stillness before officially stepping into the spinning wheel of daily life will allow you to forge a strong, impenetrable shield of peaceful energy, protecting your fragile soul from the toxic impacts of the chaotic external world. Tomorrow morning, when you first awaken and consciousness returns to your body, instead of hastily leaping out of bed or immediately grabbing your phone, allow yourself to lie completely still for just a few moments longer. Smile, send a gentle, loving smile to the very life force that is currently flowing through your physical body. Then, slowly and deliberately sit up on the edge of your bed, or find a small, quiet corner in your room. Keep your back naturally straight, relax your shoulders, gently close your eyes, and begin to direct your entire, undivided attention toward your breathing. Quietly observe the cool, refreshing stream of air entering through your nostrils, gently expanding your chest and abdomen. Then, observe the warm stream of air slowly exiting, carrying away all the stagnant residue and deep-seated tension, expelling it completely from your body. When breathing in, you know with absolute clarity that you are breathing in. When breathing out, you fully recognize that you are breathing out. Throughout those entire 5 minutes, you do not analyze anything. You do not judge yourself, and you absolutely do not make any plans. If an anxious thought regarding work or finances attempts to sneak in, simply view it as a small, passing cloud drifting across the vast sky of your mind. Do not chase after the cloud, but do not aggressively try to push it away either. Simply acknowledge that it is passing by, and then gently, lovingly return to firmly grasping your steady anchor, the breath. This anchor of the breath possesses a deeply miraculous power. When the mind is securely anchored in the present moment, the violent storms of anxiety can no longer sweep you away into the darkness. The turbulent, muddy flow of consciousness will gradually settle, becoming as clear and pristine as a calm, ripple-less autumn lake. The profound silence cultivated in the first 5 minutes of the day will establish a highly positive vibrational frequency, powerfully shaping your emotions and your responses for the entire 24 hours that follow. When you step out into the world with an inner landscape that has been thoroughly watered by the gentle rain of mindfulness, you will find yourself far more resilient in the face of harsh judgments, much calmer when confronted with unexpected difficulties, and significantly more clear-headed when making critical decisions. From that point on, everything naturally becomes smoother and more favorable. This happens not because the world has fewer storms, but because your mind has grown vast enough and still enough to embrace all things with compassion. This is the true, ultimate meaning of smiling and living joyfully and completely in the present moment, forever leaving behind the dark shadows of confusion and fear. The story of the anxious merchant and the falling leaves. Let us quietly step back through the veils of time, returning to the ancient, prosperous city of Rajagaha, a place where the air was constantly filled with the rich scent of rare spices and the restless, never-ending energy of commerce. In the heart of this bustling capital lived a young, highly successful merchant named Sumana. By all worldly standards, Sumana had achieved everything a person could possibly desire. His warehouses were overflowing with exquisite silks. His chests were heavy with gold, and his trading caravans traveled to the furthest corners of the continent. Yet, if you were to look closely into Sumana's eyes, you would not find a single trace of joy or peace. Instead, you would see the dark, hollow shadows of profound exhaustion. Sumana was a prisoner of his own restless mind. He was consumed by an unrelenting, suffocating anxiety about the future. Every single night, while the rest of the city slept peacefully, Sumana would pace the cold stone floors of his grand mansion. His mind constantly projected disastrous scenarios. What if a sudden storm swallowed his ships at sea? What if ruthless bandits ambushed his caravans in the desert? What if his competitors plotted to destroy his reputation? One particular night, the burden of anxiety became absolutely unbearable. A massive shipment of his most valuable goods was due to arrive the next day, and dark, heavy clouds had begun to gather on the horizon, signaling a fierce approaching storm. Sumana's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He could not breathe. The very walls of his luxurious bedroom seemed to be closing in on him, desperate for a single moment of relief. He wrapped a cloak around his trembling shoulders and fled his mansion, wandering blindly into the quiet, mist-shrouded hours of the early dawn. His erratic footsteps eventually led him away from the sleeping city and up the winding, peaceful path toward the Bamboo Grove Monastery, a sanctuary where the awakened one and his disciples often resided. As Sumana entered the monastery grounds, the sky was just beginning to turn a soft, pale purple. The air was crisp, cool, and incredibly still. There, in the quiet courtyard under a massive, ancient Bodhi tree, he saw a senior monk named Mahakasyapa. The venerable elder was holding a simple bamboo broom, slowly and mindfully sweeping the fallen autumn leaves. Swish, swish, swish. The rhythmic sound of the broom against the earth was the only noise in the vast, silent morning, driven by his inner torment. Sumana rushed toward the elder monk, his voice trembling with desperation. "Venerable Kasyapa, please forgive my intrusion. But my mind is burning in a fiery hell. I have not slept in days. My entire fortune is out there in the world, and a terrible storm is coming. If I lose this shipment, I am ruined. My future will be completely destroyed. How can you stand there so peacefully, just sweeping leaves, when the world is so full of danger and uncertainty? The elder monk paused. He did not look surprised, nor did he show any sign of annoyance at the sudden interruption. He leaned gently on his broom, looked at the frantic young merchant with eyes as deep and calm as an undisturbed ocean, and smiled softly. "Young friend Sumana," the monk spoke, his voice carrying the soothing coolness of a mountain spring. "You look incredibly tired. Your breathing is shallow, and your shoulders carry the weight of a mountain. Tell me, how long have you been carrying tomorrow's storm in your mind? Every waking moment, venerable one. And every sleepless night." Sumana cried out, "I must prepare for the worst. I must figure out what to do if everything falls apart." Kasyapa nodded slowly, understanding the deep suffering of the young man. He held out the bamboo broom to Sumana. "Before we solve the problems of tomorrow," the elder monk said gently, "I need a small favor from you. I am an old man, and this courtyard is very large. Could you please take this broom and sweep all the leaves of the entire courtyard with one single?" Massive stroke. Sumana stared at the monk, utterly bewildered. He looked at the vast courtyard, covered in thousands of scattered yellow leaves, and then looked at the narrow bamboo broom. "Venerable Kasyapa, with all due respect, what you are asking is entirely impossible," Sumana replied, his confusion temporarily distracting him from his panic. "No human being can sweep an entire courtyard with one stroke. The broom is too small and the yard is too wide. I can only sweep one small section at a time. I must take it one step. One sweep, one breath at a time." A profound, radiant silence descended upon the courtyard as the elder monk's smile widened. "Exactly, Sumana. You see the truth perfectly," Kasyapa said softly, his words sinking deep into the merchant's restless heart. "It is completely impossible to sweep the entire courtyard at once. And yet, is that not exactly what you are trying to do with your life?" Sumana froze, the profound realization washing over him like a sudden wave. "You are standing here." In the safety and quiet of this beautiful morning, the monk continued, pointing to the soft dawn light breaking through the trees. "Yet your mind is frantically trying to sweep away the storms of tomorrow, the bandits of next week, and the financial ruin of next year all at once. You are trying to carry the burden of the entire future on the fragile shoulders of this single present moment. No wonder you are collapsing, my friend." Kasyapa stepped closer and placed a warm, comforting hand on the young man's trembling shoulder. "The secret to a peaceful life, Sumana, is exactly the same as the secret to sweeping this courtyard. You can only live one moment at a time. You can only take one breath at a time. When you wake up in the morning, do not immediately drag the heavy burdens of the future into your bed. Sit up, breathe. Sweep the courtyard of your mind just for that one moment. If a storm comes tomorrow, you will face it tomorrow, with the fresh energy and clear wisdom of a well-rested mind. But right now, in this moment, there is no storm. There is only the cool morning air, the sound of the birds, and the steady beating of your heart." Tears welled up in Sumana's eyes as the tight, agonizing knot in his chest finally began to loosen. For the first time in months, he took a deep, full breath. He felt the cool morning air fill his lungs. He heard the gentle rustling of the leaves. He realized that in this exact second, he was perfectly safe. He bowed deeply to the venerable Kasyapa, leaving his heavy anxiety at the foot of the Bodhi tree. and walked back down the path with a light, peaceful step, ready to face whatever the day would bring. One mindful breath at a time, awakening from the illusion of the future. Dear respected listeners, the story of Su Ma Na is not just an ancient parable. It is the exact reflection of our own modern daily struggles. We are all merchants like Su Ma Na, constantly calculating, endlessly worrying, and fiercely trying to control a future that is fundamentally unpredictable. We exhaust our precious life force, trying to sweep the entire courtyard of our lives with a single panic stroke. The profound lesson drawn from this story is the life-changing power of anchoring oneself in the present reality. Anxiety is always entirely dependent on the future. It cannot survive in the pure, unadulterated presence of the now. When you practice those 5 minutes of morning mindfulness, as we discussed earlier, you are essentially picking up the broom of mindfulness. You are consciously choosing to sweep just the small, quiet space of the present moment, rather than attempting to fight the imaginary storms of the day ahead. By sitting quietly, following your breath, and allowing your mind to rest in the safety of the early dawn, you strip away the terrifying illusions created by your own thoughts. You realize that most of the things you intensely worry about will never actually happen, and even if they do, worrying about them today does absolutely nothing to soften their impact tomorrow. In fact, living in a constant state of anxiety only depletes the vital inner strength and clarity you will need to handle challenges gracefully when they do arise. Let the morning be a sacred space of rebirth for your soul. Do not let the thief of anxiety steal the pristine beauty of your new day. Just as Su Ma Na learned to breathe and trust the rhythm of life, you too can train your mind to let go of the heavy baggage of the future. Cultivate the gentle habit of waking up, smiling at the ceiling and whispering to yourself, "I have arrived. I am home. In this moment I am safe and I choose to breathe." This simple, yet incredibly profound act of letting go will clear the muddy waters of your mind, allowing the natural currents of luck, smoothness, and inner peace to flow effortlessly throughout your entire day. If you find these shares meaningful and wish to continue cultivating a peaceful heart amidst the turbulence of life, please consider subscribing to the Buddha's Healing channel and sharing a short thought in the comments below, so we may continue to walk this path of awakening together.